All right, Mr. Alward, back in January when I asked you, you said you were going to have your plan on the table before the March 31st deadline. Last week, it changed again. You were saying probably closer to the election campaign. Now, with the deal off the table, there's still a lot of debate about energy policies. Where are you with your policy, and when can we expect it?
Okay. My first comment is, with our policy, as a party, we spent over a year reaching out to New Brunswickers, developing our policies for our party. And we have 7 parts to that foundation. One of those parts is our is energy policy. So the work has already been done to develop our policies for our own party, and that's available now on our website. It's been there since last October. That will help form the foundation for our platform. And what I've said from square one, and if we look at what's taken place, we had a premier that shocked New Brunswickers on October 29th by coming out saying that he had negotiated a secret deal with the Hydro-Quebec to sell MB Power out from underneath New Brunswickers. And New Brunswickers have stood up and been strong, and because of that, we've seen this government have to change in crisis mode, and we've seen MOU 1 morph into MOU 2, and we heard what was taking place in late January and into February and early March, that they were having huge problems with MOU 2. They couldn't get buy-in from the people of New Brunswick. New Brunswickers have stayed strong all throughout this, and finally we have a dead deal. And New Brunswickers have stood up to Premier Graham and said enough is enough, you need to be part of the solution. I think it's a message for all New Brunswickers. The number one thing that's going on, number one, this is a government in 2006 said that they would have an energy policy. New Brunswick still does not have an energy policy. That energy policy is the roadmap for the future. My commitment going forward, my number one commitment is the first thing we need to do, and that will be, you can be sure will be part of our platform, is we need to have an energy policy for the future. And the second part of that is New Brunswickers need to be part of that solution. There are some parts that I believe will be very important. If we look at Atlantic cooperation and collaboration, if we look at the potential of long-term power purchase agreements, but never something for eternity. If we look at the opportunities within our renewable energy sector, it's very clear that this last deal left renewable energy off the map, and because of that, many within that sector had said this was a bad deal for the future of New Brunswick. So those are some of the key components that you can expect will be there. We need an Energy and Utilities Board. We need the operation of MB Power to be independent, to be above political interference. I think that's another message that is very strong. But what will be very important is we lay out our platform. And we'll do that as it makes sense for us as a party. Will be that number one, you need to have an energy policy. Number two, New Brunswickers have to be part of it.
But by the same token, you have to allow New Brunswickers time to be able to digest it, because it's going to be a rather complex document, I would think.
Well, again, one of the things that I've learned more than anything else over the last number of months is process does matter. And look, if we look at the Sean Graham Liberal government, time and time again, whether it was post-secondary education reforms, where literally thousands of St. Johners had to stand up and people from across the province to say this is wrong, whether it was French second language reforms, parents had to take this government to court, healthcare reforms, where right now Francophone communities in New Brunswick are taking this government to court, ATCON, financial mismanagement, increase of the net debt of the province by $3 billion in 4 short years, and the granddaddy of them all, MB Power. This government and the Premier still doesn't get it that New Brunswickers need to be part of the solution. And I believe that's a message for all New Brunswickers, that and for all political leaders, that if we don't include people as part of the solution, we're not going to get it right. And it takes a whole lot more to try to deal with the damage after than having to taken that little bit of extra time and get it right the first time.
Speaking of damage, and this will be my last question because I know you're in a hurry, but speaking of damage, we have MB Power now without a CEO. We have a couple of the key senior managers retiring.
I believe there are 4 that have actually the CEO and a minimum of 3 other senior VPs that have either already retired or are leaving shortly. And that talks again about a government that was so sure that they were going to sell to Hydro-Quebec. They really didn't care about what was going to take place in the future. That sends a very strong message to me that this government has a responsibility to take care of NB Power now. We need to ensure that NB Power is not floundering. That the
Is it a crisis right now? Because in addition, we're hearing more about rate hikes along the way again.
There has certainly been a lack of focus by this government, caused by the negotiations that have taken place over the last number of months. There are certainly excellent people that are at the helm of NB Power, and the gentleman that is in there now, he's certainly a very capable person. The minister has dropped the ball on many occasions throughout this whole negotiations before. When we've asked questions in the past, the question period, he would say one thing, only have to reverse another time. Without a doubt, there needs to be significant focus by this government with NB Power right now as we go forward. We've got real concerns about the negotiations themselves that had taken place and the vulnerability that it has put NB Power in, because they had to open up their books fully to Hydro-Quebec. And right now, the CEO of Hydro-Quebec yesterday in Quebec was saying, when he was asked about negotiations with other provinces, are they still going on, for instance, Prince Edward Island, he said, yes, those negotiations are still going on. We plan to take the energy through New Brunswick and sell to PEI if we're able to cut a deal. Well, Prince Edward Island is New Brunswick's an excellent client of New Brunswick. We asked today, what is the impact in the long term? And the minister could not or would not answer that.